Hello and welcome to In the Art Scene podcast, an art podcast that has it all. I'm your host, Galina Marquez, and I invite fascinating people to talk about their personal creative journeys, success stories, and inspiration. We talk about art business and marketing, how to find your creative voice, and all the new trends in the art world like NFT, AI, and such. Join me and my guest for today's conversation. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to In the Art Scene podcast. And as you may guess, again, I'm having another amazing artist with me today, Tatiana Lopez. I am blown away by what she's doing because I have never seen anything like that. She is a visual storyteller in a very interesting way. She's an anthropologist, and I'll ask you more about that because you're doing your MA in visual anthropology, and you're a part of the Visual Anthropology Society. Or I had no idea such society exists. More importantly and more interestingly, Tatiana is exploring very important, very complex ideas, and her work is so touching and so I get shivers when I look at it in a good way, because it makes me think about things that I would have never thought about, without being pushed. So I think this is a great service that Tatiana is doing actually for the whole world. So why wouldn't you take away and introduce yourself, and then I'll ask you questions about your work, because that's amazing.
Hi, Galina. Thank you for having me today. So it's so I feel so good to meet you and to be here to be able to share the work. So like you said, I am a visual anthropologist. I'm from Ecuador, but I currently reside in New Jersey. So I am also a storyteller, a photographer. So usually my work focuses on this body-territory relations, and more specific in these relationships with the animistic worlds and the human non-human relations we all hold so close. And so, that we sometimes forget that we are even connected to these other worlds because they're not visible to our eye in this like material world, how we call it. And it's mostly in through dreams or through like intangible things that we can really touch, but they are there. No. So I've been exploring this for the past 2 years. I finished my master's in visual anthropology just last year. Due to COVID and everything, the world was crazy. Yeah. So I was able to finish last year. And through this master thesis that I did, I was able to connect with indigenous Sapara women from Ecuador and work on this, body territorial relations, but then also in the aspect of dreams, of like how dreams, something that we all experience, like all humans experience, and how important they are in our daily lives, and how we disregard this because we don't really pay attention, or most people don't think they are important. And like being able to get connected to that idea of having dreams guide your life has been really life-changing for me. And it's something, that I carry really deeply now, because it's something that I've had since I was a kid. I used to have like all these vivid dreams, and I didn't understand what they meant, but I used to be like, oh, I've dreamed this before. This already happened. Like, what's going on? And then, like with time, we grow up, we get caught up in all our own, like worlds and like problems and all this, like society tells us, well, this is what you're supposed to be doing. And we forget there's a spiritual connection that we have with, other beings, because maybe it sounds weird, or it sounds, like it's not normal, or, we don't normalize those things. So through the masters, I was able to get more deeply involved, like and investigate what is that, what role the dreams play in indigenous communities, and what role do they have in these body territory relations. And everything, it's just interconnected. When we talk about, or when we we see how extractivism keeps growing, and like in the Amazon, and the minings are, like the mining is growing, the issue keeps growing, and we're like just extracting, or like thinking, okay, we're just extracting a resource, and we see nature as a resource. But then when this resource is extracted from this territory, then the territory also has a spirits. Like we all have, like these angels, or whatever we want to believe, but we are guided by these spirits. So the territory also holds all these spirits. And when the territory gets destroyed, then like Sapra people believe that the spirits leave this land, and since they leave, then they won't be able to dream anymore, because there is no messengers to bring them, like these dreams, and to guide them, and to being able to connect with them. So if this happens, then Sapper people are left with no answers to like how to act, or what to do, or like what's to come. So that connection between this world and the spiritual world it's lost. So how, like the way that they explain it is like, how do we allow them to destroy our land if, like this is also destroying us and our well-being and our spiritual well-being? So it's just, like it's kind of like a chain, and everything is interconnected, but we don't see it like that, because we don't see this affecting us in this society, in this, the Western society.
Yeah, and as you mentioned on your website correctly, that in the Western culture, we see ourselves separate from the nature, and that brings a lot of problems. And like the most fundamental problem is the climate change, and all the environmental crisis that we're facing right now. And I want to ask you about that, and I want to ask you a little bit more about the dreams, but I want you to explain to me a little bit, to me and to everyone who's listening, the body territorial relations. What do you mean by that?
Yeah. So usually when I work with women from the territory, from indigenous communities, they talk about this, the land being destroyed. And then, of course, when the land is destroyed, the water is contaminated, the food is contaminated. And who are the ones who drink from that water? Who are the ones who eat that food? Is the families from these communities. So when they consume these products that are contaminated, their bodies are also being contaminated. So there is this relationship of, like how our body is, like our territory also, that we have to protect. And as women, they have, like all these experiences that they have encountered, violence through, like extractivism, violence sometimes in their communities from leaders that are, like not doing good in their community. And then there is also this contamination that comes from all these other factors. So their bodies are also at risk of getting sick. And, it's not just the spirit, because like what they, their belief is like they are 50% material world, and then the 50% spiritual world. So there is the body and the spirit, and both of them are important for them to be in balance and to be healthy and to, have a well-being. So in the same way the land is destroyed, their bodies are also being destroyed. So there is that relationship of, like both are territories. Like our body's also a territory that we like, they feel like they have to resist against, like contamination, against violence, against all these factors that are affecting them through extractivism and through climate change too.
So yeah, it sounds like the extractivism is the problem on all levels. It's not only destroying the land, the body, but also affects the spirits and spiritual connection for the indigenous people. Why are you working mostly with women?
I think, well, when I wanted to start this, like this project, I keep seeing a lot of news, and it was like always, like the women having their front, like the front in these issues, and trying to, like raise awareness, and nobody was listening. And everyone is, like, I felt that when there is like a man in front, everyone listens. But when a woman comes to the front, then, like everyone is like, oh, like, it's okay. So I feel like it's so important. And, like right now, I feel like that's changing, that the women are empowering themselves and like having these like leadership roles. But I feel like it's so important to have these spaces and to amplify their voices and being able to listen, deeply listening, and not just hearing what they're, like what they're saying, but listening and working towards those solutions that they know that can help. But, like sometimes we disregard that. And also in, like in this extractivism is such like what you call it, it's rooted in this patriarchal system, that I feel like if we don't, not destroy it, but dismantle it from the bottom, then nothing is going to be changed. Like this has to be dismantled so we can create like a vase that is not like focus on this patriarchal system anymore, because that's not working anymore. Like it doesn't, like in those communities, indigenous communities, there's not only men who live there and who can take the decisions, but there's women, there's children, there is, like the elders, and everyone should be able to have a decision and to have a voice and say like, I agree with this, I don't agree with that. But in some communities that doesn't happen. So it's mostly men who make these decisions and about, like land or about, and then the women are more focused on the family and, like harvesting their food and, like cooking. So now that's changing, and they're trying to work together to be stronger so they can, like move forward.
Yeah, I agree with you that it is very important. Uh, and I was actually this morning I was reading something for the show that I'm going to be a part of, and the show is in the women based complex,
Mm-hmm.
and the show was about like women and feminism and everything, and I was thinking pretty much exactly like I'm this is so serendipitous that we're talking about this today, because like what is going on in my head is like women are the carriers of the culture, women are the carriers of faith, of life, of everything, and yet like you said, patriarchal system is often diminishing those voices, although like pretty much like remove women from the society and nothing is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Like the society is not going to exist because yes, we are like in most cases we are the protectors of the like the fundamental weave of our lives, our beings. So yeah, it's really interesting. um this is this is one of those moments when I feel uh like that's a communication from the universe. Like I was focusing on this issue like literally this morning, and here we are. I had no idea how this conversation was going to go, and here we are talking about women protecting uh, the very existence on all levels, the spiritual level, on the physical level, the environmental level of their communities. It's absolutely amazing. So I also wanted to ask you a little bit more in details about the dreams and the work that you are doing in this series in particular. And I know that it's still ongoing. You're continuing to do that. Is It is kind of outwardly dreamy because you are using cyanotypes as your like photography medium. You are stitching on top of it. There is also the poetry, the indigenous poetry, and some filming going on, and it's all weaving into this absolutely like outwardly experience. Like I was watching the clips on your website, and I felt like I was dreaming, with those voices of women reading the poetry. It's just absolutely beautiful. So, can you tell me a little bit more what you have learned about the dreams, how they guide them, how do they maybe there's some meaning, because you said that it's also changed your life because you began to understand more about the dreams that you have had as a child and maybe you're still having. So, can you talk a little bit more about this?
Yeah, of course. So I think, like when it comes to dreams, it's always been something very like mystic and, like interesting for me. And like having that connection again, it's just really special, and it builds more of like a grounding of like an understanding and more of like respect for all this, that we are able to experience. So for them, dreams, like in separate cosmologies, are messages. So they the way that they explain it is there is different levels of dreams. So it's like, and they explain it like in a way that we can understand, because not everyone it's going to be like, I feel like they have become accustomed of explaining this to us so we understand, rather than explaining just like, oh, it's a dream and this is what's going to happen and it's a message and it's like the spirit of the mountain telling us this. But they explain it as if like there is a stages. So one stage can be like a dream that is just a message, or it could be like a memory from the past, or it can also be like something that's going to happen in the future. So for example, for them, if they dream something, let's say they have a meeting in the dream with a tiger. And I used to hear, like their dreams every morning, because they will share them and they will interpret them. And then they will be like, okay, then it's safe to go to the forest today to hunt. Or, like it's something that they have to interpret first to move on with their day. So like it will be like, there was this dream that I remember that one of the elders had. And one morning he was explaining to me, he was like, yeah, like I used to have this dream where I met this tiger in the forest. And the tiger keep like, like telling me, you're coming to my place, like you're coming into my territory, like I don't want you here. And then he's like, and I couldn't understand what he was trying to tell me. And then he's like, and then days after, like I went hunting and there was this tiger standing, like in this like far away. It wasn't like really close, but I saw him and then he saw me. And at that moment, like he was like, I remember my dream. And then I was like, I didn't know what to do. And I was like, okay, I know that I don't have to go towards that area, because that's the tiger's territory. And then he's like, and I told the tiger that was far away, it's okay. I understand. I know I'm not going to pass to your territory. I'm going the other way. Please don't, like, don't kill me. I'm leaving. And then he left and the tiger left. And I was like so amazed about that, like that understanding of like respect for other beings, for other living beings, like that they're like other than human. So having this, understanding and not like cross to other people, like other peoples or other animals or other, beings. And he knew that because of a dream, like like he remembered his dream and he knew not to go there because of the dream, because otherwise he would have gone and then maybe the tiger would have killed him. So like all this, like little like messages that, they say that it comes in dreams. When I used to live in, like I was living there with them when I was doing my thesis, I remember I wasn't having dreams, or like I was having dreams, but I couldn't remember them. And I keep like telling them, I can't remember my dreams. Like, I don't know. And because they will ask me, what do you dream in the morning? I was like, I don't know. I don't remember. And then they're like, okay, you need to start writing what you do during the day. Like at night, journal everything you do during the day. And then we're going to give you tobacco, which is the plant that, clears your spirit. So you're able to dream and clears you of like negative energies. So every night they will give me tobacco, and I will write what happened during my day. And then in the morning, I will try to write what I dreamed, or even, if I remember something very small or not. So I will write it. And then little by little, like I started getting into like this, remembering more and more, because like it was like I was more, I guess, like centered, and my head wasn't going all over the place. They explained that when you have a lot of going on and you're like trying to figure out what's going to happen tomorrow, a month from now, what happened yesterday, all this worry, it blocks your, like your dreams. So you are not able to have a good night of sleep. Your body doesn't rest and your spirit doesn't rest. So that affects, like how you dream, or why you dream or don't remember your dreams. So I remember after that, I keep having like really vivid dreams. And it was like, oh, and now like I'm trying to understand what they mean, because for some people, they might represent something else. And it takes you to know what's going on with you, with your body, right? And in this world, and in the material world, when we talk about, and like I'm talking right now as if it was two worlds, but there is not. Like for the Sapra, there is only one. It's just how we have to, like, and that's those dualisms that we create, that okay, there has to be two in order for us to understand. But there's only one world, and it's just the world, its form in, the spirit and the body. So right now, when I dream, I feel like I try to understand the situation I'm going through, all the emotions that I'm going through, and how that is affecting, or, like how can I better, or, like pay attention more towards, or what's going on, that, like why do I dream like this, and what's going to happen today. And like I try to pay attention to all those things. I'm more aware, rather than, like just have a dream and then forget about it and be like, oh, it was just a dream, and don't make those connections. So it has really, make me more aware of who I am as a person, and, like what my journey, or what my path should be, or where should I guide it to. So it in the past 2 years that I've been doing this, it has really opened up this, like more of like an opportunity to explore who I am really, and where I want to go, as, like not just as an artist, but as a person, as, like an individual, being a person of like service, and, like go through that healing that sometimes we disregard. We really, like we just so caught up in our own, like little world, the things that we have to do, and, like bills, and we have to pay to this. And, nobody's asking us, well, how do you feel internally? How's your spirit? How is your heart? And through dreams, I've been able to do that, like a little bit of that healing, of like questioning, okay, how are my emotions right now? And trying to go through that, like that process, which it's, like a long process, but, we have to start somewhere. So that's how, like dreams have, been, and, like for me, they have been really important.
It's very interesting, the custom tradition. So they would get together every morning and talk about their dreams.
Yeah,
that's how they start their day.
Yeah. So most of the families, there are some families who don't, and like a lot of like Sapara people already have, like Sapara men or women got married with a different culture, and then like they have like different cultures in their family. So there is families that they get up in the morning and they drink guayusa, which is a tea made of a leaf, and they drink that, and they are able to have like this circle and share about their dreams. So it's like 4 a.m, they will gather and they will drink the tea. They will tell their dreams. They will talk. It's like a family kind of like getting together, you know. And then in the morning after that, they go shower in the river and they start the day. So it's, you know, like I feel like it's such a beautiful way to start your day, because like you're starting like so clear and just so you know, like with like your body just feels like lighter, you know, like it's not that, you know, like, oh, I don't want to get up, or like and I struggle with that here when I come to the States. Like it's so weird because like when I'm in Ecuador, I'm like up so early and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do all this, and like, you know, like I feel rejuvenated. And then when I come to the States, I struggle getting up in the morning, and it's just like, I'm like, why does this happen? I'm like, oh, I'm so lazy today. So it's, you know, like, I feel like it's also like the change of places, and the dreams are completely different too. So it's really, you know, like interesting to see that that contrast when you're like in a place that is like more connected to nature. You're like, you know, it's quiet and the food is different than when you're like in a place and you're like rushing and you're like, you have to go to work, you have to do this, you have to like, and then you take like this, you know, fast food, and then because you have to eat super fast. And then how your dreams also are affected by this, by the way of life that you have. So it's, you know, interesting to really go through that.
Yeah, it is very interesting. Hey, In the Arts Scene listeners. I just wanted to say a quick thank you for all the support you've given me in the past year. It means more than you know. Every donation through Buy Me a Coffee and every purchase of swag helps me keep up with the production and put out a new episode every week. And I certainly appreciate if you will keep doing it. But I also feel that if you like the show this much, you deserve a little more than just a thank you. This is why I launched a Patreon page. There will be monthly live Q&As, exclusive content, and for the hardcore fans, I got some swag and keepsakes. I love this community that we are building together. And by joining my Patreon, you will help me create more content for you. Go to patreon.com/intheartscene and join today. Hey, remember I said I'm a one-woman show? Well, there's a little more to it. Being a busy mom, an artist, and entrepreneur is not easy. There's just not enough hours in a day to do everything I need to do and produce a podcast. And let's be honest, I know close to nothing about the sound production and editing. This is why I use Fiverr. I have found the most amazing professional editor who's been a part of my team since season 2. Fiverr is an amazing resource, especially for artists whose precious time should be spent in the studio and not at the computer. You can literally find everyone you need, from virtual assistants to web designers and SEO specialists, to help you run the business side of your art practice, and for any budget as well. Go to intheartscene.com/Fiverr to get connected with professionals who will help you get the things done. Are you trying at least to keep the practice when you're in the States of, journaling in the evening and remembering your dreams in the morning?
Yeah. So when I come here, I feel like I can really journal, like write everything that happens. So what I do is I will write like little kind of like poems, or just like words that explain how I'm feeling. And then I try to like embroider a lot. And that helps me to, like and, when I get up, I try not to like see my phone like right away. And, like I try to be like, okay, what did I dream today? What did I dream last night? And I try to remember, and then I write it down. So it's, like, it's kind of like, it's a different routine than when I am in Ecuador, and, like I'm just, it's just naturally, like your body is just feels more naturally. Here I feel sometimes like I have to force myself to do these things, because I don't want to go through like that routine of like, oh, I don't want to get up, like I'm so lazy today, like, and I push myself and I'm like, no, I need to, like kind of keep with what, like my practice. It's a practice, and I feel like that takes also, like willingness to do, like, and it's okay, like sometimes I do feel like tired, and I'm like, oh, I feel tired, and I'm like, okay, it's okay to feel like this. Also accept that, like it's okay to sometimes feel sad or discouraged or like not wanting to do anything and just like lay in bed and sleep. Like I've also been trying to learn that too, because sometimes I feel like I push myself too much to do all these things that I want to do. And then my body also gets tired and my spirit also gets tired and I get discouraged and all these things. So being able to, like do different things, go like, I love like hiking and, like going out and just like do things like that to like keep me inspired and, like not falling into that, like that routine that, doesn't really contribute anything.
Yeah. You mentioned that the dreams are different because you're changing places, but then you're changing the pace of life and what you eat and how you. But do you feel like the spirits are different, or like are there any spirits in the states that will guide you through your dreams at all? Because I mean the land is so like overdeveloped that I don't know if any spirits would keep staying here.
Yeah. So what I like what the several people used to tell me, or the members from the community I work, was that in the cities are like really hard to dream, like to be able to dream, because the spirits might not be here because it's like there is no like really natural places around. But then if you also contribute that to your worries or like all the things that you are going through, and then you keep thinking, okay, what do I have to do tomorrow, and then you go to bed thinking about that, then obviously like the spirit is not going to be able to travel into like this, they call it makihaunu, which is the space where dreams happen, and which is this other like it's just a space where the spirit can go and receive messages. So the spirit is not going to be able to like come, and then also it's going to get tired. So that's why when you get up in the morning and you're like, I slept a lot but I still feel tired, is because your spirit wasn't able, like you gave your spirit a lot of tasks to do, and you were like, okay, I have to do this, like what's going to happen in a month, what's going to happen tomorrow. You're giving your spirit a lot of tasks and they're trying to find the answers for you, but they are not able to to find it. So when you get up, your body's going to feel tired because your spirit was tired too. So there is all this, going on. So they said that when you're in the city, you have to make sure that you eat healthy, that you eat, good food, not just, like fast food or any of that. So you eat healthy, that you, when you go to bed, you don't go thinking and worrying about things for the next day. Like try not to, like think about it. Just like try to go with a clear mind and be like, okay, I'm going to sleep. I'm going to go into this space, Makihaunu, and I'm just going to let, like my spirit rest and bring me the messages that I'm supposed to be receiving. So, and that's also hard sometimes, right? It's like a whole meditation. It's like, okay, how do I quiet my mind to like just shut up and, like do its thing? So it's just a practice too that we have to, so it's a work that we all have to go through.
Yeah, and it makes so much sense that we're not letting our spirits rest, and we get up tired, because I feel like pretty much everyone in the Western world can relate to it, but we like have no idea what's going on. Like stress, depression, whatever, blah blah blah. But it all comes to like you're not nourishing your body, you're not letting your spirit to rest. So yeah, it makes so much sense. I also wanted to ask you about the name for the series and go a little bit into the technical aspect of that, because you are mixing so many mediums together to create the visual for your research, that I cannot not ask you about that. But the name is quite long, so it's In Between Dreams, Forest, Echoes, a song
It's
about the burning anaconda.
mhm.
Is that right? Like
Yeah.
that's a mouthful. That's a mouthful.
Yeah, it was a really long title that I was also very what do you call it? I was procrastinating and I was like, oh, maybe that shouldn't be the title. But then I was like, but I feel like it should be the title. And it was just like trying to mix everything that the image represented, and not just the image, but also the idea where the images came from, right? So like what came behind that, or why I did the series this way. So like it has a lot of mediums. And I've when I started, I was a photographer. So I started as a photographer, and then I started mixing media, and then like I started doing drawings, and I used to do all this mandala, like sand mandalas and draw mandalas. And then somehow I couldn't really stay with one media. And I was like, but I want to do like a lot of stuff. Like I want to be able to mix different stuff. And then after like I think it was like 2021, yeah, last year, I did this course in embroidery, photo embroidery. And it was just for fun, because like I was doing my thesis and I was like, oh, I need something to kind of like keep me inspired, because like I feel like I'm just like doing the same thing every day. So then I took this course, and it was like, it completely changed my mind. So I was like, oh, I was like, and the idea came, I was like, this is the right, like the right medium to express what happened during my field work. And I had these portraits of women that I photographed in medium format. And I was just getting into doing medium format. And the film got ruined in the airport because it went through the scanner.
Oh my God.
So so I was like devastated. I was like, the film just got ruined. And then I remember like having the film, and I was like, I can't use this. Like, it's just like burned. So then I'm like, I'm going to maybe do something with it. And then I didn't know what to do with it. And then I took this embroidery course, and it was like, I feel like I'm going to learn how to do the cyanotypes, and then I'll use the photo embroidery. And then, it was just so like natural that the ideas just came together. And I wasn't really, like there was no much thought in it. It was just like, oh, I'm just going to do this for, like it was like, I'm going to do the embroidery for fun. And then I'm like, the film got ruined. So how can I fix that so I can use those images and make something of it? And then, like.
So you used ruined film to make cyanotypes?
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
I mean, I was going to ask you, because I have never seen cyanotypes of like human portraits. I have seen cyanotypes of objects, plants, all of that, and I was like, how's that possible? You cannot possibly expose a human body to the sun to make that. That's very interesting.
Yeah. So I used the negative, and then, like I scan it and put it into the computer, and then I made like a negative of the photo. So then I did, like the cyanotype. It also took me, because I've never done a cyanotype with like an actual photo. And then, like the shadows and the highlights work different in the cyanotype. And, like if they're very contrasty, they won't look good in the cyanotype. So I had to like adjust to that. And then I had to like learn what was the right, like exposures, and then how were the photos. So like it was a whole process. And it was also like, I feel like this process of also meditating and, like learning something new and like what I wanted, like being inspired to create something that I had no idea how to do it. And then, when I was able to finally make one cyanotype that came out super great, I was like, oh, this is so exciting. So then I started doing the embroidery and I was like, okay, now I want to use the embroidery. So the embroidery was this path, right? The path that the women or this like older generations took to get to this generation, and how they keep, like bringing new generations and just like that lineage that follows, right? So I just wanted to, like show that in the photo. And then when you have the cyanotype, like, and you use also, like the sun to expose, and then the water to wash them, and it's just like the elements are there. Mm-hmm. So it was just so meaningful how like the whole process just came to be and came together. So it was, like I was like, this is what, like I think like I want to do a series of this because it has meaning to me and it has meaning to what I've experienced and what the women said. And, like this, also this relationship of like their bodies related with nature, and like having that into one image was like so important to me. And then the series came to be, and it was just something that I wasn't planning on doing, but it just happened. And it was just so awesome that I didn't have to put like all this hard work, but it was just like a process of getting inspired and doing something with what I had. So
yeah, sounds like some spirit has been guiding you.
Yeah.
And I love that you are mixing all the natural elements, and you're also embroidering like leaves and plants onto the photographs, onto the cyanotypes. And I had another cyanotype artist on the podcast, and she was talking about the same thing, and she's doing cyanotypes with plants, so it's kind of easier to just lay them on the surface. And for her, it was also the connection to nature, because you're working with the plant material, with the sun, with water. So it's it is a very like it is very interesting. Like the cyanotypes have this property that make them look kind of outwardly, yet they really combine all the natural elements together in the process of making. It's really fascinating.
Yeah, and also about the like the burning anaconda. When we talk, when like when Sapper talk about the burning anaconda, or the anaconda is the so the anaconda is the being that balances the earth when the earth is going out of balance. So I like I wanted to have that kind of like that as a story, because if the earth is getting destroyed and like our bodies are getting contaminated, then everything is going out of balance. So like bringing that being to balance it again and to let us know, like, so it's like echoes like the song of the burning anaconda. It's like this song that reminds us the message that we have to like change our way so the earth doesn't get destroyed. So it was just kind of like also like bringing that message together with the images that
Yeah, it makes sense. It totally makes sense now, because at first when I was reading it, like, okay, I read it once, like, in between dreams. Okay, let's go again. Like, in between, what on earth? But yeah, it does make a lot of sense that the dreams are the messages that we receive, and the messages are about the earth and the forest that is being destroyed, and the anaconda is the balance of the world. And it's burning, it's dying practically. So yeah, it does make a lot of sense. So you have another element in this series, which is little films that you're making, films and audio, the poetry. Can you tell us a little bit how that came to be?
Yeah. So the audio was something that I already had envisioned when I was doing my thesis. I wanted to have like the songs of like women in the background of their photos. So it was just going to be a photo, and then it was going to be the song in the background, right? So you know that that woman is singing. And it was like so straightforward. But then when like the film got ruined, I didn't have any photos, and I was like, oh, now I can't really do this. And then after like when the cyanotypes came to be and like the embroidery, and I was like, this is perfect, because now I can mix the video, which is like landscapes of just like how it feels. Like I wanted to portray like how it feels to be in the forest sometimes, because like when we go for the first time, for me was kind of like this like out of this world, like experience. And I was like, where am I? Like, this is such a beautiful place. And you just feel like that, like it was like this existed all this time. And like, this is the first time I'm here. And it's just like such like a profound experiences, like being there. So I wanted to have this, like this kind of feeling of like being always moving in the forest. And like when you're there, like you're always walking, you're crossing rivers, you're like, you have to go, like there's no cars, so you have to walk everywhere, or you have to go in the boat. And I wanted to have that, like that. And it's kind of like also, like you said, like a dream, right? When we're in a dream, it's kind of like we're just moving and everything just changes, and like colors and like all this comes all at once, that we really don't like don't know how to make sense of it. So I wanted to have that feeling. And I wanted to have, like in the background, I wanted to have their voice, like I wanted to have their songs, because like for them, like the Sapro language is like also in danger of extinction, because only 3 elders are the ones who speak the language, and their songs are a way to preserve that, because that's what's easiest, passed to other generations, and what they've been learning a lot. So I wanted that to also have, like kind of like come together into one piece, like not just the cyanotypes, but also the video, and like this kind of like interdisciplinary show that, that you see in the website.
Well, you accomplished that because this is such a multisensory experience. Even just from your website, it's already a multisensory experience. I wonder, I wish I would see it in person one day, because that would bring like when you are in the same space with the artwork, and not just interacting with the screen of the computer, like maybe even like touch the embroidery a little bit. That would be absolutely amazing. But even on your website, it gives like the experience on so many levels of what you're trying to say. Yeah, it's really beautiful.
Thank you.
Absolutely beautiful. All right. Well, is there anything else, the message that you want to tell our listeners today? Because we've been I feel like we covered a lot of ground, and it's almost been an hour.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you about another series that I saw on your website, which is also very interesting. It's also the research of the body spatial relation, but in a totally different way. I don't know if we have time for it today, but I would really love to bring you back on the podcast and talk about this, because that was something interesting, like to me personally. But in terms of your current series and your current work that you were doing, the dreams, how much you have learned, how much you have changed, your time with Sapro people. What message would you give to everyone who's listening?
I think that like just to pay more attention to your dreams, to what's going on around you. Like I feel like sometimes we just walk without seeing what's around us, or without listening, like the birds or like the wind, and like the rain. Like when it rains, we're like, oh, it's raining. I feel like, like sometimes we get annoyed of it. And just like to pay attention more to, like what your surroundings are. And I feel like that will open up like a more, like a better understanding of the other beings, like the other beings that accompanied us, the other beings that are always there with us. And we maybe don't see them, but they are guiding us. So I feel like right now we're like in a time where, a lot of things are going on in the world, and a lot of like there's a lot of like anxiety and a lot of anger and a lot of like all this negative negative feelings that we are experiencing, but we also have like all this like there's hope, there's all this really beautiful things, this beautiful world that we have, but we just have to notice it. We have to like notice that it's there, and notice that Mother Earth is there for us, and it's guiding us, and it's like it's crying, and it's like telling us, here I am for you. So I think paying attention to your dreams, and just be more aware and mindful of what we do in our daily lives. It can like it can make a big difference in everyone's points of view right now in the world.
Yeah, it's a beautiful message. Thank you so much. I truly think that we're like the Western society sounds so like globally consuming. It's like when you're talking about Western society, you're pretty much talking about like the population that dominates how the world operates right now, which is and in your message, it's so true that it dominates and operates in the way that is very harmful for the earth and for us, for human beings, on the physical level, on emotional level, on spiritual level, on all the levels. And it's almost like we really forgot that we are one with the nature, and we're just not noticing it anymore.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your wisdom. Thank you so much for the work that you're doing. I look forward to seeing more of the series. I will make sure to leave all the information in the show notes, links to your website, your social media, which is, guys, if you don't follow Tatiana on Instagram, you absolutely have to, because her Instagram is like a beautiful gallery of her work and beautiful messages. You just go to her Instagram. Can you spell the Instagram account for us, Tatiana, please?
Yeah, so it's Tatiana, Tatiana Lopez, Lopez _OM.
Everybody heard that? But I'll leave the links in the show notes. I'll make sure to show some of the work in the show notes, so you have an idea of what we were talking about. But absolutely go to Tatiana's website and watch the clips. Especially read what she's talking about, because she has done an amazing research. Not only from the scientific standpoint, she has lived what she's talking about. So Tatiana, thank you so much for your time, and I will be back in touch with you, because I really want to bring you back on the podcast and talk about your other work, because I feel like every series of yours we can just spend an hour easily talking about. All right, thank you.
Thank you so much for having me, and I'll be gladly come back
and
talk to you. Thank you so much.
All right, we'll see you in the art scene. It has been another episode of In the Art Scene podcast. If you liked today's conversation, please give us a good review on Apple, and go listen to other great stories. Check out our website intheartscene.com, or follow us on Instagram at intheartscene for more content. If you are a creative and you want to share your story, shoot us a message from the website or DM us on Instagram. Look forward to seeing you next time in the art scene.